Broken Biden. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. We talked about this all during the campaign. He lacks the integrity. He lacks competence. He's not supposed to be president. We can all see that. And it's kind of sad. I can accept that because, quite frankly, I'm used to it. I knew it about this guy. And actually, in a weird way, I can accept that Afghanistan is now in the hands of these guys. I don't like it at all. It didn't have to happen this quickly, but it's Afghanistan. It's far away, and as long as they don't dare mess with us here, I can live with this. We have to. But something I can't tolerate, another loss for our American military. Now, we have the best military in the world, but it's led by incompetent generals and civilian staff. This is not the responsibility of the men and women, the troops. It's those who lead them. And this is a long time coming. You know, the Pentagon, my goodness gracious, it's time for a top to bottom overhaul. Start from scratch. The culture has been corrupted, possibly because the Pentagon is so close to the swamp. It's in the swamp right there, so close to those guys, those bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. They have screwed up the military. Now, we showed you yesterday how all the happy talk and misinformation about Afghanistan helped put us in this fix.
I think that the development of the Afghan army is on a very good path right now.
We've made tremendous strides, incredible progress in the last 20 months.
The solid partnership has been the thing that has been really striking for me all around the country.
It's fair to ask if we're winning in Afghanistan. I believe the answer is yes, and several facts allow me to say that with confidence.
And we've seen some great progress in some of the operations based, even at the tactical level, on the intelligence structure.
They showed me the positive changes they have helped bring about, the villages they can now enter, the Afghan police and forces they are training and trying to improve.
All this sugarcoating, all this bureaucratic talk, all this spin, we got to stop it. Something has to be done culturally inside the Pentagon, because they did the same thing in Iraq. Another war, we blew it at the very end, but it was a long time coming. We were saying the same misleading stuff about Iraq. The generals were. Take a look at this, all the way back in 2003.
The situation in Fallujah over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as we all know, has been a very cooperative and peaceful situation down there, where the mayor and the police chief, in fact, have been very supportive of the efforts that we have been embarked on. It is clearly a right in a democracy for those policemen to demonstrate as they have, and to state their views.
The police and military in Fallujah were protesting American forces, and he says somehow that's a good thing. Fallujah, I was there, was a powder keg, and yes, it did explode. Remember those contractors that they hung from that bridge? So much silly happy talk, so much misinformation from the generals.
While it's been a difficult few days, I can tell you that Iraqis have again risen to the occasion. Let me give you a couple of data points here. First of all, the Iraqi security forces performed well across the country, generally well.
Generally well. That's known. That's giving him a lot of wiggle room. Okay, generally well. This is prime bureaucratic speak. Next. Oh, remember this guy?
We're also focused on developing a capable and professional Iraqi security force and helping to build civil capacity. And we're making progress in each of these areas every day. And while these efforts are progressing at a different pace, they're all moving forward in a positive and tangible manner.
He was so bad they promoted him twice to 4-star general and now Secretary of Defense. How about this guy?
The Iraqi security forces demonstrated on Sunday that they're up to the task. If it were a test, they passed with flying colors. And I'm pretty confident that they can continue to secure the government of Iraq and the Iraqi people. There's no doubt in my mind that they can do that exceptionally well.
Pretty confident, pretty confident. They all remind me of Baghdad Bob. Remember him, the Minister of Information during the invasion? Oh, we're winning, Saddam Hussein, right? He got it all wrong. They remind me so much of Baghdad Bob because the first real test for the Iraqi military in July of 2014, 30,000 Iraqi troops gave up pretty much right away to less than 1,000 ISIS fighters. ISIS rolling right over the Iraqi military in Mosul. They just walked right in. See, here's what the military would never say about our allies in Iraq and Afghanistan. As Fred Kaplan once reported, these militaries need American backing, a network of close air support, intelligence, logistics, repair, maintenance crews, rapid mobility by helicopter. You need that stuff for a real military, and they just don't have it. And that's why this all happened. I'm not blaming the troops, by the way. The troops, I'm talking about the privates to the sergeants to the lieutenants, captains, majors, even the lieutenant colonels and colonels. I'm talking about the generals. Yeah, the generals at that high level, they failed. Most of them. There's some thoughtful ones in the mix, some who will actually risk their career for their country. You know, lots of soldiers and Marines, sailors will risk their lives, almost all of them, but they won't risk their careers. It's kind of an interesting conundrum, if you will. And this goes all the way back to Vietnam, where bad news from the battlefield was often manipulated, crafted to look like good news by the time it got to the Pentagon. It's very rare for a general to go against the grain, very rare. One who did, who I like a lot, his name was General Edward Meyer. Shy Meyer was his nickname. He was the chief of staff of the Army from 1979 to 1983. And one year in 1980, he shocked all of Washington, D.C. when he came right out and said, the Army that I'm in charge of is a hollow one. I mean, this was straight talk, and some of them weren't able to handle it. At one point, he threatened to turn in his 4 stars if he did not get what he needed to equip his army well. He was something else. What do we have now?
And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look, I do want to know.
The military are supposed to avoid domestic politics. He's auditioning to be a guest on Rachel Maddow's show. He did not have to say any of that stuff. And that, by the way, is in June. What's happening in June? The withdrawal from Afghanistan. He should have been planning the non-combatant evacuation operation that we're seeing right now. Such a colossal failure. You know who saw through this guy and the others? Trump. Trump. He saw right through their act. In fact, when he showed up on the USS Gerald Ford, very interesting what he saw. And I'm going to have him tell you the story in a moment. But first, steam catapults in the Navy, aircraft carriers. For decades, they launched via steam. A catapult would throw the aircraft down the deck, and it took steam to actually move the airplane off the ship. Well, somebody had the bright idea to change that to electromagnetic technology. Electromagnetic, okay, give it a shot. Thing is, it's not working too well at all. And Trump was very familiar with this, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it. And guess what? The brass, they don't like that.
We built an aircraft carrier, and the aircraft carrier has all sorts of problems. It's the Gerald Ford. They throw the plane off, and they decide to do it through electric instead of steam, right? Catapult, it's called. So they have a catapult, and for 60 years, it's been steam operated. They decide to do it, let's make it out of electric. I went to visit the ship, and I wasn't interested in seeing the Admiral. The Admiral said, "Sir, Admiral so-and-so, the thing's out to sea trials, it's not working." And I said, "Admiral, honestly, I think you're a wonderful man, very good-looking guy, actually. You're like central casting, but I want to see the catapulters." So I meet these 5 guys, real great guys. They're catapulters. "How long have you been doing it, Jim?" "Sir, 21 years. I said, "Let me ask you have a problem with it?" "Absolutely, sir, it doesn't work." "Why?" He said, "Because if it breaks, you have to go through graduate school at MIT to fix it. And with the steam, we had the same power or more, and we could fix it with a blowtorch and a hammer."
I love that story. He's absolutely right. You know who hates that story? Hates that story? These guys, the generals. I feel bad for that sailor who told the commander-in-chief the truth. Sometimes that's the last thing these guys want known. I'll be right back. Joe Biden, when it comes to matters of race, he is not only is he not woke, he's ignorant and pretty racist, actually.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
I'm not exactly politically correct, but that's bad, real bad. Joe had a problem when he was running for president. This stuff, and also most of the people around him, his trusted advisors, were white people. And in Democrat politics, that's a bad thing. So he had to fix that fast. So he found a 32-year-old Simone Sanders, happens to be black, happens to be young, and she fit the bill. Joe Biden said, "We got to hire her right away for optics, for optics." This has been widely reported. But Simone wasn't sold on Joe. Joe, a 2-term vice president of the United States, had to give her a tour of his house, his big house, and had to woo her. This mid-level, 32-year-old staffer with 1 or 2 campaigns under her belt. She wasn't too sure about Joe Biden. Ultimately, she took the job, and now she works in the White House. Let's meet her.
Hey, guys, what's up? We have a meeting with some tribal leaders in the Vice President's ceremonial office, and I need some more lemonade.
All right, and what do you do here at the White House?
I have the pleasure of serving as a senior advisor and chief spokesperson for Vice President Kamala Harris.
All right, good for her. Good for her. And there are parts of her attitude I really like. Her political philosophy, though, and what she thinks about things, that's another story. Take a look.
Growing up, I used to watch the news all the time. As a teenager, I know, very weird. And I used to think when sitting there watching the news, why are they saying it like this? Strange thing to think, and I often thought it around politics. And then I realized later on that politics isn't anything but a bunch of people who get in a room and decide what the messages are, and then they tell a bunch of other people how to communicate those messages through events, through press, through all kinds of things.
That actually sums up the Biden administration view of politics, just figuring out what to say. That's how we got Afghanistan, not actually governing, not building coalitions, not building and writing effective legislation that could appeal to. Politics is just figuring out what to say. Interesting, isn't it? That may be a superficial, light form of politics. That's no way to govern. What else?
I realized the people in that room didn't look like me, okay? Not a lot of them, at least. They weren't young. They weren't bald black girls from Nebraska. They weren't from the Midwest. So that's what got me interested in politics. And now we're at the White House.
All right, here we go. How you look. Nobody looks like me, that kind of thing. Now, remember she said a moment ago when she was watching the news, she said that was pretty weird to watch the news. And I know what she's talking about. At one point, kids watching the news, that's kind of unusual. A lot of kids don't watch the news. I liked the news when I was a kid. She liked the news. That's great. But now she takes it to the level she was excluded, or people like her were excluded because maybe being bald, being black, being young, being from Nebraska. Did you hear that? nobody was from Nebraska? She's wrong. Politics is open to anybody. It's self-selection. And by the way, Ted Sorensen was from Nebraska. You know who Ted Sorensen is? He was John F. Kennedy's chief aide in the Senate and later in the presidency. See, I just don't care what people look like, and too often I'm told that that's all that matters, and I think that's a terrible message for the country. All right, so Simone and Joe, good luck to you. In the meantime, I want to talk about Tony Blinken. Now, who is Tony Blinken? Think for a moment. Tony Blinken. Well, he's the Secretary of State. The name Tony Blinken, Secretary of State, I don't know. No, he's no Henry Kissinger. He's no George Shultz. He's no Warren Christopher. He's